Was it yesterday, the day before, there was a coral snake in your garage?
Yes.
Yes, a coral snake, a deadly poisonous snake in her
He's
garage.
still in there.
And he's still in there.
He's still alive?
I don't know, we can't find him.
Okay, now can you imagine somebody comes over to her house, gets bit by this snake, and ends up running up a couple $100,000 in medical bills? Is that a probability?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Guess what? They get to come after her personally for her $1 million to cover these expenses. Personally, they get to come after her because it was a part of her personal income and it was at her personal place. But if you've taken all this and put it into a business, you've created a wall that they cannot come after all this money because it was a personal issue, it wasn't a business issue. So you create a separation and a wall between what are personal issues and business issues. The types of businesses that are here now, they're sole proprietor. That's when you're still the individual. That's when they can come after everything that you have on a legal basis. If there was some accident, somebody wanted to file a lawsuit against you or who knows what. An LLC is called a limited liability company. They're very simple to set up. I will get into it in just a little bit. That is the best one for most of us, is form an LLC. It's a small business. LLCs were designed for individuals who want to run small businesses and didn't have to set up a corporation, but can still have the protection. That's why it's called limited liability company. It gives you the tax protection of a corporation without having to file all the paperwork and do business meetings and stuff like that as a corporation. If it's just you, this is the best route to go. Subchapter S Corporation is the next step up.
But you have to name your, you have to entitle your company's name
I'll
and
get
all
to
that.
that. I'll get to
Yeah.
that, okay? I have a Subchapter S Corporation in Washington State. It's in a dormant status. All I need to do is go back online, pay a small fee to activate it, and I'm back. I use a Subchapter S because it gives you more options. The biggest thing is in a Subchapter S, what are the options for me? I've brought my children into the corporation. I had authorized 1 million shares for this corporation. I gave 100,000 shares to my son, 100,000 shares to my daughter, and 800,000 shares for myself. I'm still the majority shareholder. I'm totally in control of everything that is there. But here's what happens. If anything happens to me, my children now have the right to pick up the rest of these shares, and it doesn't go under the long, extended issues of a will or estate planning issues. They can immediately step in because they are also officers of the corporation. They can immediately step in, take control right away in my absence if something happens to me, and continue the business operating and continue to spend the money. They can do that. Otherwise, if I had all this money and if I die, if I transition, and I put it into a will, it could be 2 years, a year to 2 years before they could even have anything of it, could even touch it. And it gets eaten up in estate taxes, estate planning issues, legal fees, and stuff like that.
But what if you had it in a trust?
Yeah.
Then a trust is the other option, and I was going to get into that a little bit different as well. A trust is another way if you want to pass stuff on to your children. Trust is that what a trust is for. A trust is something that you can do that so that you pass it on to somebody else for what you have is there. And Penny has set up a trust. Some of you others already have trust. It just depends on what you want to do. But from a business perspective, these are the two routes to go. For most of you, it would be an LLC is the best rate.
So now, if you have a trust, they can't sue the trust, right? With the snake?
Yes.
They can? They can't
No,
sue?
no, they can't.
No, they can't sue.
Well, it
the-
depends. I'm not a legal expert on that, but I would almost certainly say yes from what I understand.
But can't you get insurance
Sure.
to cover those kinds of things?
Yeah, but there's, insurance have maximums on what they pay out. All insurance policies do.
Right.
Not all insurance
So
policies are
then,
totally unlimited.
if they sued you above what that maximum was, then you'd be responsible for it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, being bitten by a poisonous snake could be something that could be continuous for 5 to 10 years before you totally recover from it. And the damages that are from that.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
the damages are huge.
Damages
They
would be
just
huge.
had a deal in the paper about that.
Yeah.
Somebody, was it a scorpion or a snake?
Yeah,
But she had to get 3 shots, and each shot was $60,000.
yeah. You know,
Did you
and
leave the garage door open so she can get out?
Now, there's a problem solver right there.
I mean, the snake, so she can
Was that
get out the way
small?
she can in.
here's the principle, yeah.
I can't do that. I can't leave my garage door.
Here's the principle about why a business versus an individual. These are, Rockefeller was really famous for this quote, "You own nothing, but you control everything." See, so all your money, all your assets are in the name of the company, not in the name of you as an individual. But yet, you have 100% control of the company, so you still get to enjoy.
Now, this is
or
with the LLC.
LLCs and subchapter S's, and even trusts, you see. It's in a name other than you as an individual, but yet you still control 100% of it. And by controlling 100% of it, you still get to use it for whatever it is that you want it to use. So the business owns everything, but you have 100% control. As an individual, you're taxed first and then spend what's left. As a business, you spend first and tax what's left over. This means your expenditures are made with non-tax revenues, and we had already talked about that, okay? Business expenses are whatever's reasonable. I already covered all that. It's whatever's reasonable based on the intent of your business, okay? And how you classify that, and you need to know that with your own individual CPA. And like Jerry, with the books you're writing and all that kind of stuff, you should always have that as a business, if you don't already have that. As it is, doesn't, yeah, okay.
Can we just take a break to the powder room?
We could, or if you wanted, if you could give me about 4 to 5 minutes, I'll be done.
Okay.
Okay. Forming an LLC in Arizona, it's a real simple approach. I will email this to you. All I did was go into put Google and I put forming an LLC in Arizona. These were the 2 most common ones, eHow, and the other one is nolo.com. Nolo is really good.
Yeah.
I used Nolo when I formed my own Subchapter S Corporation in Washington State. I will email this information to you. It's also on the handout. And let me show you really quick. If you do NOLOs, this is what you get. And just the steps are, number 1, you choose the name for your LLC. Number 2, you follow your articles of organization. Number 3, you appoint your registered agent, which is you. Number 4, you prepare an operating agreement. Number 5, publication requirements. And they give you
Examples?
examples and how to do all this stuff. What is your operating agreement? There are draft ones already for you when you go to enter into these places. So it's not hard, it just takes some time. But you can actually do the whole thing in probably 3 to 4 hours at the most, okay? And then you comply with the other tax and regulatory agreements. Foreign LLCs is basically, you're a foreign LLC if you are located in another state other than the state of Arizona.
Which, and like the consultants bring up, each state has its own laws, and Nevada is considered the best state out of all of them for protection.
Yes.
So, we're talking about Arizona, but that may not be where you want to
Right.
create it.
If you are really active in your business and if you have a lot of money, you're best to do it in Nevada. There are the reasons why. Nevada and Wyoming are the 2 states that whoever, when you form a corporation or an LLC, whoever is the registered agent and the owners, it's completely private and nobody can get to it. Nobody knows who you are. So if somebody wants to sue you, or sue the corporation, they don't know how to get to it because they can't access the information of who it is. All the other states, it's public. That's the advantage of a Nevada corporation.
So you can live outside of the state, but
Yes.
still open it in Nevada
Well-
and you're protected?
Yes.
But the thing is, you have to have an office in Nevada, and so like these consultants will set up the office, take your mail, file whatever you need. So, I mean, it's more challenging if you don't live there, obviously. But the reason why he points out Nevada as opposed to, let's say, Wyoming is because Nevada has case law for asset protection. So there's already, been documentation and all that for the protection of assets, whereas Wyoming is more like ranchers and oil people, and that's where the focus is. So, and then there's Delaware. But I mean, Nevada, he said, so no wonder, I know Reno's also the foreign exchange area for wells, but no wonder there's the gatherings going on in Nevada.
Yeah, the whole concept of using Nevada as a place to do your business as a small business has been around for about 25 years.
And also, they have no state tax.
Right, they have no state tax. Okay. Why don't we do this now? We can take a break now.
Okay.
Well, I guess this is a good time. Did you have a question?
I have a question. So when you talk about, opening a business
Mm-hmm.
for the dinar, don't you have to have a purpose for the business?
Absolutely.
Sure. But it can be whatever you want it to be. Your purpose of your business can be nothing more than taking your dinar and investing it.
But then you actually have to follow through, like you have to go and take action, and you're investing, and then you have expenses related to the investment. You made a business trip to, have a meeting with someone who you're thinking of investing. I mean, it's a game, but they're also really, you do have to,
Yeah.
follow through.
Yeah, there's, you can have any reason to have a business of anything that you want. Your business may be giving your money away. That may be your business. Because you want to help others. You want to do charitable causes. And so you're going to do some research. You're going to make some trips. You're going to run an office out of your home. You're going to take a bedroom and turn it into an office. That gets to be a tax write-off. So part of your utilities is a tax write-off. Part of your house payment is a tax write-off. Your mileage is tax deductible, 55 cents a mile, or whatever the current rate is. You may take a trip over to California because there's some place over there you want to donate money to.
And if you already have a business that has nothing to do with this, then you would have two businesses, or it's better to
You can always convert, if you have an existing business, you can just expand that and use that. Or you can have another one.
But there's also reasons to separate businesses out, like he talks with the LLC. You should have your, rental real estate separate from anything else that's currency or cash or that, because if something was to happen with the rental, like with the snake or whatever, if it was all in one LLC, then they could be jeopardized. So you want to keep that cash stuff separate, the brokerage accounts and all that, and the real estate separate. I mean, there's a lot to know, and we really need to get our advisors.
Yeah.
You do.
So much.
The biggest thing is, it's how you want to spend your money, or where you want your money to go, what you want to do with it. And there's great tax savings if you operate as a business versus an individual. And, most of us are gonna have a lot of money.
Dave, so do you have any CPAs you recommend?
Don't look at me.
I'm looking at everybody.
Do you have any what to recommend?
CPAs.
CPA.
We met with one a couple of weeks ago, I guess.
Scott
Levy.
Levy, we met with the guy here in Sedona.
Scott Levy?
Scott Levy. We liked him very much. He was not up on the dinar. He's up on traditional taxes and everything. He said he'd have to do some research on it. But we also clued him into the dinar and suggested he buy some. So he will do his own research, would you think?
So he's a CPA?
He's a CPA in Sedona.
Why?
LEVY.
L-E-V-Y. It's Scott.
Scott Levy.
L-A-V-Y?
Yeah, I'll get it.
He's
L-E-V-Y.
partners with his dad, and his dad is semi-retired, but his dad is a tax attorney. So they have tax attorney advice as well. And they both live here in Sedona. We were impressed with Scott. Scott had really recommended Subchapter S versus LLCs. He said that's the way to go, that's the best way to go. And so you just, your opinions differ. But he came right at the beginning, he says, if you're getting all this money, you need to open up a Subchapter S Corporation. And put it in there.
Are you gonna define what
But
that is?
doesn't there have to be
Okay, just
established?
question, just asking.
First?
Does the LLC or the Subchapter S have to be established first?
Yes.
Technically, yes, but there is established case law that it comes back to intent. And if you kept accurate records, receipts, etc., you could still get by with it. It never becomes an issue unless you're audited. It's never an issue unless you're audited. At the time of the audit, They could say, did you set up a business? And you can say, and as long as you show a clear intent and path, says, okay, the dinar revalued here, my subchapter S was formed 3 weeks later, but I was in the process immediately of doing that. Here's all my receipts. They would show, that would show clear intent. So there's still, when they had talked about you have to do it first, they're gonna talk to you from a legal perspective. They're not gonna say in a webinar that you don't have to do that, because they don't wanna be liable for a statement like that. But there is court records, it comes back to clear intent, as long as you have receipts to show it, and that you were doing certain things along the way. You just didn't wait for months and years before you did it. You didn't go use all your money without showing a clear intent that you were in the process of doing it.
And Dave is doing a terrific job, and I would highly recommend you watch the video that he had in his email.
I
Because then
didn't-
you can
I didn't
stop
get
it.
that.
Yeah, you did, but I'll send it to you again if you need it.
Because you can stop it and, like, I took notes and, you know, it's there, and they're very down to earth, and it's great because they're doing the tax and the legal together, and they start with business and then they go into estate planning, and you can see how it dovetails. It's actually interesting, which I'm surprised, you know, I've done this stuff in the past, it was boring.
When an attorney or a CPA speaks in a webinar, they're always gonna speak from a very conservative
Oh, yeah.
position because of their own responsibility. There's always individual exceptions or individual rules that are somewhat different. It can be different as you go through your process. But the law is, it's intent. But it only becomes an issue if you're audited for that year. It's the only way it becomes an issue.
And you could be audited 5 years later for that year.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. But if you have receipts, you keep a log in a journal, you show clear intent of what you were doing, they're gonna come back and say, you were clearly doing this. Let me give an illustration. You can set up a nonprofit business. Once you get your nonprofit business license in your state, people can donate to your business, and it's a tax write-off. And you apply to become a 501c3, but it takes 6 to 8 months before you get that approval. Does that mean for those 6 to 8 months that the people donating to your nonprofit business cannot write off their taxes? No. Because you showed clear intent. You applied. You started the steps in the process. And again, it's only an issue if you get audited. It's the only time that you ever have to prove it. Because until then, your taxes that you file is your word. Taxes are always filed as a part of your word. It's an honor system, how our taxes are filed. Okay? We ready to go on? Okay. Bank and brokerage accounts. What I say is open a small business checking account for the business. Have more than one signer for backup protection. You don't want to be just you, because what happens if something happens to you? Your money's locked up and nobody can get to it. Always have somebody else that you trust that can access your money for you so it doesn't get locked up and tied up. Okay? You always want to have that. Okay? Open a brokerage account for investments. I have 3 bank accounts, 1 business, 2 personal. I have 2 brokerage accounts, 2 different brokerages. Now, Wells Fargo may want to be your broker. They